Our first speaker is Ms. Ayse Birsel, co-founder of Birsel and Sec. She is a Turkish-born, New York-based award-winning industrial designer, author, and executive coach. Please give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Okay. Can we set my timer? Can you set my timer to 0, please? I need my 20 minutes. All right.
The floor is yours.
All right. Ohayo gozaimasu. This is my heart beating with excitement at being here together with you in Tokyo. Oh, too excited, that went too fast. Okay, but still, let's say it with my heart. I just want to put my... Okay. So, you know, I've been an industrial designer almost all my life. And I don't know if you have this problem, but to this day, I struggle to explain what it is that we do. People know when they need a lawyer. People know when they need a plumber. But most people don't know when they need us, designers. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I had an epiphany the other day. Of all places, in my karate class. Yeah. I got my black belt recently, and my sensei, my Turkish sensei, said, "You're ready for some black belt moves." And he taught me feint. So what is a feint? Feint is a movement, a fake movement you do in order to deceive your adversary. And when their attention is distracted, you come with the real attack. Okay, now, I need to demo this. You do a front kick. Your opponent's attention goes to that kick. And just when they are looking there and they're attacking here, you just boom! Boom, boom. To their rib, neck, head. They're down, you win. Okay? Us. This is exactly what we do as designers. In design, we have many opponents. Our prejudices, biases, preconceptions, the old stories we tell ourselves. They grip our mind and they won't let go. We need a distraction, something that gets our mind out of ourselves, out of our heads. And once our mind is distracted, a space opens up, and that's when we move in with the real attack, with our imagination. So I used to live in Tokyo. Toto was my client, and they wanted to enter the American market. This was a while back. And they had this unexpected problem. Washlets, as you know, are such a common thing in Japan. And they wanted to introduce washlets in the States. But what they didn't realize, and we quickly learned, there is a taboo about bidets in the States. And it's an old story. It comes from the Second World War, when American soldiers went to Europe. Where do you think they saw bidets? Well, whorehouses. They didn't went into homes. They saw prostitutes using bidets, and they thought, ah, so that's what you do. And so this taboo connotation was established. And so when Toto was trying to sell washlets, that taboo was the bias, the opponent we had to fight. So, what do we love in America? We love our comfort. So comfort became the distraction to move people out of that idea of a taboo into something extremely comfortable, a chair. Because a toilet seat is a chair with a hole in it. And that was our design feint. We designed the Zoe washlet like a chair, and it spearheaded Toto's entry into the American market, and it became known unofficially as the world's most comfortable toilet seat. That was our design feint. Design can also transform lives, even without the intermediary of products. So I wrote my first book, Design the Life You Love, to explain how design can help everyday people in their design of their lives, their most important project. When the book came out, my dear friend Marshall Goldsmith, who's also my mentor, a best-selling author himself and the world's leading executive coach, said, Ayse, why don't you do a workshop? I'll invite all my friends, and this way we can promote your book. And I said, great. So usually my workshops had about 20 people in them. Marshall showed up with, guess, how many people? 70 people. And I got very excited, and I was also terrified. And Marshall could see this. And so he pulled me aside, and he said, Ayse, this is no time to be an introvert. This is a time to be an extrovert. So now I need the other mic. Thank you. So he said, Ayse, this is no time to be an introvert, which is when you're a designer, that's usually what you are. You need to be an extrovert. So he pulled me aside and he said, we're going to sing together. There's no business like show business. No business I know. Da 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 da. Okay, I have a terrible voice. But you get the idea. That was the feint. That was the trick that got me out of my head and into being the Katy Perry of Design the Life You Love. And I transformed from an introvert trainer into a Broadway performer and went and worked with those 70 people. Thank you. Yeah, that's me as Katy Perry. So he tricked me with his coaching feint, and now it was my turn. I was going to trick him in my workshop. So I asked Marshall who his heroes were. See, Marshall is one of the best executive coaches, and he works with the top CEOs in the world, and he often advises them to leave at the top of their game. And here he was at the top of his game, but he couldn't take his own advice. And he needed, somebody to help him. Fear was holding him back from his next evolution. So I asked Marshall who your heroes are. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. You want to do this? I'm going to ask you who your heroes are in the context of world design. You're all designers here, so you can take out your sketchbooks and think about a moment who your heroes are who inspire you, people you know or you know of in the context of world design, who have qualities that you admire and notice. So I'll give you a little example. Mine is in the room, Patty. Goddess of empathy. I'm going to talk as if you're not here. I admire Patty for her courage to do the hard things and ability to inspire people and change so many lives for the better through design. So now the question is yours. Who is your hero? And I'm going to ask for some volunteers. So could we all do this for a second? And I'll have the microphone again. I promise I'm not going to sing. Okay, think for a second. Who is someone who inspires you in the context of world design? And this could be someone you know or you know of. And what are their qualities? Well, how come you're not writing anything down? You're not doing it? May I have a volunteer who wants to share their hero with me? Thank you.
He makes me dream about what is impossible.
Okay.
Yes, please. Okay, my hero, Luigi Colani, makes me dream what is impossible.
Thank you, Victor. Another volunteer? Yes. Could you also please say your name?
Yeah, my name is Mary.
Thank you.
Mine is Neri Oxerman, who has been working on material from natural silk and created a whole world that is 100% sustainable. We just have to follow her.
And what is it about her that inspires you, just in terms of...
Her modesty.
Oh, beautiful.
She changed the world, and she still is very modest and very quiet. And I like that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, our third and last volunteer. Who'd like to volunteer? Thank you. And your name is? Radhika. Radhika. Thank you.
So I am really, truly inspired by T. Chang. She's an American designer who works on pleasure toys for women. And she has really changed that with her expression. I admire her courage to take on an industry that is predominantly male, but for women wellness.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. So thank you so much for participating. And Radhika, I want to start with you and turn your hero back to you and say you're someone who's courageous and not afraid to take on big challenges. That's you. And Mary, you are someone like your hero Neri, who believe in 100% sustainability, but you're modest even while you change the world. So thank you. And Victor, you're someone who dreams what's impossible and makes that happen. Thank you. So the hero's exercise is the feint in distracting people with the idea of they're thinking about their heroes, where in fact they're thinking about themselves and their values. So you just made a list of your values, cross out your heroes' names, and put your own name down. And our values are the foundation of whatever we design. So it's really important to get to these things. So with Marshall, his hero was Buddha. He said, Buddha taught me everything I know without asking for anything in return. So I asked him, and I'll ask you as well, what are you going to do to be more like your heroes? And Marshall said, I'm going to teach everything I know to others without asking for anything in return. And he became the Buddha of coaching. His attention went away from his fears into his future. Once his attention was on Buddha, a space opened, and his imagination filled up that space with the idea of knowledge philanthropy, giving away everything he has in terms of knowledge. And he went home, he did a 2-minute video, put it on LinkedIn, 17,000 people replied. And he said, I'm going to teach everything I know to you for free. And he started 100 Coaches, his knowledge philanthropy project. Excuse me for a second, I need to just drink a little. There's a saying in Japanese, Jibun wo umaku damasu. How did I say that? It means to deceive or trick yourself, but in a good way. I love this. This is the beauty of a design feint. You're tricking your client, your customer, your own mind, but in a good way. So there are many design feints, tricks up our sleeve. One of them is the heroes exercise that we just did together. I pulled a feint on you. Did you notice? But in a good way. Metaphors are another one. They help us understand new or different things in relation things to what we know. And in our work with older adults, the opponent is prejudices that we have about older people, that they're fragile, close-minded, ready to go out. And the feint is the metaphor that older people are astronauts of long life. And as astronauts, once you think of them as astronauts of long life, going where no one has gone before, because we've never lived this long before, they're courageous, growth-minded, curious. It upends your prejudices and opens up your imagination. Wrong thinking, one of my favorite feints, to come up with the worst idea so you can come up with the best idea possible. Issei Miyake is a great example of a trickster. And here the opponent was wrinkles. What happens to your clothing when you travel? They wrinkle. And our preconception or bias is that wrinkles are bad. It's the worst thing you can do to your clothing. And he did a design feint where he made wrinkles beautiful. And instead of avoiding them, he embraced them, turned wrinkles into design, and Pleats Please was born, the best travel clothes. One more, cross-fertilization. When you put two things together and the result, the whole, is bigger than the sum of its parts. Our project, the Resolve Office System with Herman Miller, was a cross-fertilization. The opponent was cubicles, putting people in boxes, and the feint was nature, the opposite of boxes. And once our attention went to nature, we couldn't get out of that thought that offices could be like gardens, and from that, the Resolve system was born. A light, organic, nature-like economic office system. So you also have many design feints. Maybe you haven't thought of them as feints before, but you have them. You have ways where you help people get out of their minds, out of their prejudices, and while they're distracted, move in with imagination. And sometimes you need to use feints in the most dire of circumstances. Sometimes reality is so difficult that we can't imagine breaking out of it. COVID, global warming, racism, loneliness, isolation, wars, natural disasters. So I was invited to Ishinomaki in 2012, a year after 3/11, and they asked me to donate a design for Ishinomaki Lab. And they said, while you're here, could you do a workshop to help middle school and high school students design their life? And I said, yes, I know how to do that. So for the first 2 hours, none of the kids spoke. Complete silence except for my voice, which is very unusual for an interactive workshop. And 2 hours in, I started thinking to myself, Ayse, this is going terrible. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know the kinds of losses that these kids have suffered. And you think you can change all that by showing them some design tools. So, and I couldn't leave, right? I had to bring it to a close. So I asked them the same question I asked you, the heroes exercise. Who are your heroes? And suddenly, the whole room started changing, and everyone started talking, and the kids started saying, one by one, my hero is my grandmother. She's kind and loving. She makes me feel secure. And then another one got up and said, my hero is my cat, so playful and funny. Another one, my hero is Homare Sawa, the captain of the Japanese women's team that led her team to the World Cup. She's courageous and believes in herself and in her team. In that moment, they all became heroes, and it was pretty unbelievable. All the adults in the room, they started crying. And I thought, wow, okay, this works. The kids had finally accepted to play together with design tools. And that's what we need to do when things are terrible. Play is the best thing you could do for your mind. But it's often the last thing we think of. So when things look bleakest, play is absolutely necessary, and no one knows this better than us designers. So here are a couple of tricksters. One is James Rees, the former design director of the Harvard Business Review, who has an incredible humor, and he uses humor as his design feint. These are some of their covers that they would do for Harvard Business Review books. Fake magazine covers or book covers just for fun to get themselves out of their heads. Impractical, outlandish ideas. And he said, if you want to be excellent, you have to play. So this is the before and after. Passion and purpose for the real book, Passion and Purpose. Stories from the best and brightest young dolphins for actually stories from the best and brightest young business leaders. Stéphane Sagmeister, the enfant terrible of graphic design and graphic designer extraordinaire, his master's thesis was on magic tricks, no wonder. He has an arsenal of design feints to make us look and think about serious topics. His most recent, Now is Better, is around long-term thinking and how many things are actually much better than they were before. And last but not least, Patty Moore, Goddess of Empathy and Master of Disguise. Here she is when you were 24? 26. Disguised as an old woman with the courageous design feint where she started universal design. Design, what we do, is one of the most powerful tools to change the world. And the world more than ever needs design and to change for the better. So now I can answer this question. When do you need a designer? Now. This is my rallying call to everyone, to you, to individuals, to corporations, to governments, to call us. Call us when the going gets tough and your mind is stuck in biases, prejudices, old stories. We will help you trick your mind for your own good and for the good of humanity so that imagination can flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Birsel, for your inspirational presentation.